2, 1. We are live now.
Good evening. This is yet another Stories to Tell episode. This time it's really exciting because we've got Dr. Tejus Naik, who started this Stories to Tell to connect with like-minded people who have a passion in their own field to share with all of us something very intriguing about the quality of what they want to speak about. To talk about Dr. Tejus is very difficult. He has got a huge number of hobbies, ideas, passions, and what have you. And the curiosity still does not stop. His house is almost a museum, or I would say is a museum. Last known that he had some 9,000 artifacts, all beautifully laid out for people to observe. He conducts various classes for people to understand history by way of artifacts. What a lovely way to connect artifacts with history. Some of the original pieces of works, where it is Rabindranath Tagore's Where the Mind is Without a Fear, he has it all there. He's got an original painting of M.F. Hussain. His interests are from Rangoli. It is real life Rangolis, art, artifacts, coin collection, and his initial stage of starting this whole collecting of artifacts started with a coin collection, which his father shared with him. And then from his grandfather, he's got the original Padma Shri and Padma Bhushan on his wall. Some of those exciting things bring in deep conversations about the various things that he's got. Many a times, there are people who would be wondering, how does this how does this passion hold on so true? And that is because Dr. Tejus, whatever he does it with that interest and his intentions of doing what he has. I have not shared with you his glory of what doctor he's been, his pediatrician and neonatal surgeon. And then the whole of the country talks largely about his expertise in that area. And being a community of doctors largely here, I think most of you know Dr. Tejus very well in that field. So right now, I hand over the whole session to Dr. Tejus for this exciting one. What is that real India? We still do not know. Let's have a glimpse of that. Thank you, Doctor. Please share with us your thoughts.
Thank you very much. Good evening, my friends. Today, probably it is the first topic related to travel. We all travel, and we travel India also. But whenever these days Taj Mahal comes into conversation, many angrily say, why is Taj representing India? There are so many other places, other structures, other buildings, which are as good or better. In that case, let me ask you this question. What places do you generally visit? What places we visit generally are attractions like the statue of Sardar, places like hill stations, Gulmarg. And if I ask you these questions, you will proudly reply to my questions that have you seen Statue of Liberty, Niagara Falls, Eiffel Tower, the British Parliament in London, Mount Titlis of Switzerland, Colosseum of Rome, Gardens of Singapore, Burj Khalifa of Dubai, or Pyramids of Egypt? I'm fairly sure that most of you have seen most of these. I'm sorry, I'm not going to appreciate that. Neither should you. Because have you really visited India? That brings me to today's main topic. My wife and myself, we isolated 100 important places of India, out of which we selected, shortlisted 40, and that we have divided into two parts. Today, I am discussing the first part, which I call 20 places of pilgrimage. You will understand what I mean by pilgrimage. So let me start with the first. The first place, which I call place of pilgrimage in this list, which are randomly arranged, not according to importance, is Kaziranga National Park of Assam. Kaziranga is near Guwahati. Mary Curzon, who was wife of Viceroy Lord Curzon, started the movement to protect this area as long back as 1905. And later, this 400 square kilometer park was declared even a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 1985. Under the title of every place, you will see whether it is a UNESCO World Heritage Site or not. But why should we consider it important? Because it is famous for its population of one-horned rhinos. My friends, world has 3,700 one-horned rhinos, out of which 2,500, can you imagine? 2,500 are in Kaziranga. On my visit to Kaziranga, in one view, I could count 40 rhinos. At most of the places, you can see 10, 20 at a time. A rare animal, mind you, and it is in that number in that particular place. Among numerous other mammals, there are Indian water buffaloes, which we call Indian, and then there are elephants and a rare swamp deer called Barasinga. There are birds, exotic birds, plant species, and notably there are more than 500 orchids in this area. Now, in a very intensive anti-poaching conservation effort, the guards in this area kill, mind you, kill 15 to 20 armed and unscrupulous poachers every year. Now, also many guards and the forest officers are also killed in this attempt. Once BBC foolishly stopped filming in this area for 5 years opposing that killing, but ultimately they repented and restarted because that is one of the wonderful conservation effort. My second place is National Museum of New Delhi. I've shown here a general map of Rajpath, today called Kartavya Path, between Rashtrapati Bhavan and India Gate. This museum is somewhere in between. This was established in 1949, soon after independence, and it is the largest museum in India. Originally, all the artifacts today in this museum were exhibited as the art of India and Pakistan in London. Now, the British at the time of independence just wanted to keep it with them. But with the great effort of the first government of India, they were brought to Delhi. They were first displayed in Rashtrapati Bhavan. Then a building was made and displayed there in 1960. It has more than 2 lakh artifacts. Not all are displayed. And they encompass 5,000 years of Indian history. Some artifacts are of immense significance, which include the dancing girl, as you can see, the dancing girl of Harappa, Pashupati seal of Harappa. It even has Mauryan and Gupta sculptures. On the left lower corner, if you see, it has actual original relics, which are bones of Bhagwan Buddha. There are also Mughal jewelry, miniatures, real Jain Kalpasutra, Geet Govind written by Jaydev himself, the original Babarnama, and whatnot. This is truly a must-visit place for every Indian. The third place I'm going to mention is Hampi and nearby sites in Karnataka. Hampi is in the middle of Karnataka. It is spread over 42 kilometers. This World Heritage Site houses more than 1,600 surviving structures and buildings from the medieval era. This city was established in 1500 AD as a capital of mighty Vijayanagar Empire, and in its day, it was the largest city in the world. Even today, it is acclaimed to be world's largest open-air museum. Vijayanagar kings, with their mighty army of 10 lakh, which was also one of the greatest army of the world, fought off the Muslim onslaught for 3 centuries. Mind you, 300 years, they stopped the Muslims from entering South India. And ultimately, they succumbed, leaving the great city in ruins. The fantastic monuments in this city include the Garuda stone chariot, which we can see here. Then there is Virupaksh temple. There are monolithic, huge Ganesha and Yoga Narsimha. There is Hazar Rama temple. And there is the Vijay Vithala temple also has musical pillars, which you can see on the right side. You can actually strike them and they sound with tones of music. The third place. The third place is Chittorgarh in Rajasthan. Chittorgarh was originally called Chitrakoot, and it was built by Maurya dynasty almost in 1300 years ago. Later, it was occupied by Gehlots and Sisodia. Sisodia, you must remember, Rana Pratap was a Sisodia. This massive fort on high grounds is a witness to innumerable occurrences of bravery, deceit, massacre, and worship. It was attacked and damaged multiple times by many, including Alauddin Khilji, Humayun, and Akbar. Still, it stands proud today. Akbar actually besieged it because he could not enter it. He besieged it, surrounded it for 3 months. Ultimately, the fort was defeated, but at that time, Rana Sanga, father of Rana Pratap, escaped. But this event goes down in history as a black day because Akbar massacred 30,000 occupants, ladies, children, aged, all. Its 3-kilometer grounds boasts of innumerable monuments in one place. There are palaces, temples, there is a Kirti Stambh, there is Vijay Stambh. There are many more than that. And where else can you see so many historical figures represented, like Rana Kumbha, Rana Sanga, Rana Pratap, Queen Padmini, Pannadhai, and even Mirabai? A unique place. The fifth place I am mentioning is Bhimbetka rock shelters in Madhya Pradesh. Bhimbetka is 45 kilometers southeast of Bhopal. There was a very curious incident. In 1957, a renowned archaeologist V.S. Wakankar was traveling by train in Madhya Pradesh. From a distance, he saw an outcrop of rocks and he thought that it looks like an ancient site in Spain. What he did was he just got down the next station, an unscheduled stop. He explored the area and he discovered the monumental site of rock shelters of Bhimbetka. This is a World Heritage Site that consists of more than 750 rock shelters. Rock shelters are not caves. They are overhanging rocks under which early man used to live. It was occupied initially 1 lakh years back and continued to be occupied and adorned with thousands of cave paintings for many thousands of years. These paintings are a rare glimpse into human settlement and cultural evolution, from hunter-gatherers to agriculture and even to expression of prehistoric spirituality. These paintings show themes such as animals, early dance, hunting, and even horses. Now, horses were not there in that early time, but because the paintings continued into Bronze Age, the later paintings included horses. This site has the oldest known rock art in India, and it is renowned world over. So these are some paintings. On the right side, you can see horses also. The sixth site is Kunchikal and Jog Falls of Karnataka. They are both about 100 kilometers from each other, and they are in Shimoga district of Karnataka. The Kunchikal waterfall on Varahi River is the highest waterfall of India. It cascades down a whopping half a kilometer. After construction of a Mani dam above it and also an underground power generation station, the water has reduced and it flows only during monsoon. This area is under forest protection and you have to take special permission to see these falls. This video shows how the falls look during monsoon. The other fall close to it, Jog Falls, which is much more famous. It is on Shekhawati River in Western Ghats, and it is the third tallest waterfall in India. It is more attraction because it is easily reached by a car. We stayed in a Karnataka tourism rest house. Both these pictures that you see can be taken from windows, bedroom window of the tourist rest house. The tourist rest house is that well placed. We can go around all the places. There are places to stop and watch, and that is why you can enjoy the majestic beauty from different perspective. Seventh site is Nalanda ruins in Bihar. Nalanda is 80 kilometers southeast of Patna. Now, there used to be a in Gupta dynasty made this university. In between 5th and 13th century, the university flourished. It is believed that Buddha and Mahavira also visited this, but that was in 6th and 5th BC. We are talking about 5th AD, and that is why there is not much record between 6th BC and 5th AD. From 5th to 13th century AD, which is almost 800 years, it flourished. It was a Buddhist monastic Mahavihara. It was first residential university of the world and amongst the greatest centers of learning in the ancient India. It taught all the six Buddhist philosophies as well as subjects like grammar, medicine, logic, mathematics, but it was destroyed by Bakhtiyar Khilji, a commander of Delhi Sultan in 1193. At that time, he burnt the library of Nalanda, and it is said the library burnt for a month. It had lakhs of volumes. Then it was partly restored and continued to exist up to about 1400, but then it was lost and forgotten inside forest. The British found it in 1811. It was excavated in 1915, and massive ruins exist even today, spread over half a kilometer. Among several surviving structures are 11 monasteries and 6 major temples. There is also an archaeology museum and a 3D museum showcasing its past glory. Again, you would agree, a worth visiting place. 8th, live root bridges of Meghalaya. You are familiar with the name Cherrapunji. It is one of the wettest spots in the world. More than a century ago, the Khasi natives of Cherrapunji realized that if they build in those days the bridges of bamboo or rope over fast-flowing rivers, these bridges won't survive long. Maybe a decade or so, they would rot and had to be rebuilt. And that is why they had a bright idea that they started training the roots of nearby rubber fig trees to go across the river. And the live root bridges were born. As long as the tree from which it is formed remains healthy, the roots in the bridge can naturally grow, thicken, and strengthen. And once mature, some bridges can have as many as 50 people can be supported. And even a car can go across it. Of course, there is not space enough for cars to pass, but it can bear the weight equivalent to a car. And they have a lifespan of hundreds of years. Actually, there are several root bridges in Meghalaya as well as in Nagaland. There are 2 in Cherrapunji, which are particularly famous. This is the one we visited, and that's why I'm showing the picture of this one. To reach this first bridge, you have to climb down in mountains 2,200 steps. And further, if you go down 2,000 more steps, you come across another wonder, and this is called double-decker bridge. People from all over the world flock this place and savor this, which can almost be called a wonder of the world. 9th, Ajanta and Ellora. Who doesn't know Ajanta and Ellora? But who visits Ajanta and Ellora? I'm sure amongst you all, not many have actually been to Ajanta and Ellora. You may remember that in childhood, our school took us there. Not that way. Have you really gone there, studied and enjoyed it? Not many. At Ajanta, there are 30 rock-cut Buddhist cave monuments from 2nd century BC till almost 500 CE. They are arranged in an arc, as the picture shows, along Waghora river bank, and they were made by Satvahana and then Vakataka dynasty. The caves have paintings and rock-cut sculptures described as finest surviving ancient Indian art. They have two types of caves, monasteries, in which they used to live, called Chaitya, and worship halls called Vihara. Ajanta caves were covered by jungle until accidentally discovered in 1819 by a British officer's tiger hunting party, and then they were brought to light. Now, the next sentence is so very important. In these caves, the caves number 9 and 10 from 2nd and 1st century BC are the oldest places of worship in India. You can imagine the importance. There is no place of worship existing before those two caves, and that is 2nd century and 1st century. Sometimes we say we saw temples from 3,000, 4,000 years ago. Sorry, my friends, no temple exists from that era. Most of the temples, old, ancient temples as they are called, that we visit are about 500 to 1,000 years old. More than 1,000 years is very unusual. Now here we are talking about 2,000 years old. And that is why this is significant. At Ellora, the Kailash temple, which is cave number 16, is the largest of 34 Buddhist, Jain, and Hindu cave temples. Ajanta is largely Buddhist. Here there are all three religions represented. They are collectively known as Ellora caves. The Kailash temple, which was created by carving from above downwards, is as tall as 10-story building. Can you imagine 10-story building? And it was carved by hand from above downwards. It is a monolithic structure, largest rock-cut temple in India. And it was created in 8th century by Rashtrakuta king Krishna I. Ellora caves have mainly rock-cut sculptures and very few paintings, unlike Ajanta. Ajanta has sculptures as well as lots of paintings. Ellora does not have many paintings. Number 10, Valley of Flowers. There was a team of 3 British mountaineers in 1931, and they were returning from an expedition to Mount Kamet. On the way back, they lost their way. And by accident, they discovered this wonderful place full of flowers. They at that time gave it the name Valley of Flowers. Valley of Flower was established as a national park in 1982 and World Heritage Site in 1988. It is known for its meadows of alpine flowers, mainly orchids, poppies, primulas, marigolds, and daisies. Plus, there is a great variety of other flora. It is also a rich area for diverse rare animals, including Asiatic black bear, snow leopard, musk deer, and blue sheep, as well as exotic birds like Himalayan monal. The gentle, undulating landscape of the valley complements the rugged mountains of Nanda Devi National Park behind. It is open only during summer from June to October and remains covered by snow rest of the year. After a 10-kilometer walk to Ghangaria, I'll show the slide again. Up to Govind Ghat, one can go by car. From Govind Ghat to Ghangaria is 10-kilometer walk, which is a one-day walk. One rests at the night, and next day one can walk 3 kilometers, just 3 kilometers to Valley of Flowers. One has to enter before 2 p.m., but inside, which is a 9-kilometer sized park, and one can walk around at leisure. But one cannot stay overnight, one cannot go anywhere except the pathways, and one cannot touch a flower. There is also Hemkund Sahib, 6 kilometers from Ghangaria, which is a very important Sikh place of worship. 11th, the temple cities of Odisha. These 3 cities of South Odisha, which is Bhubaneswar, Puri, and Konark, are justifiably described as the Golden Triangle. It is replete with ancient and medieval monuments, sacred to all Hindus, and one of the sacred Char Dham is Puri Jagannath Temple, which has 2 divine brothers and their sister as the deities, as we know, and it was built by Ganga dynasty king in 13th century. Now, I said 4 dham. These are not the 4 dham that we conventionally feel, Badrinath, Kedarnath, etc. The sacred 4 Char Dham are Badrinath, Dwarka, Rameshwaram, and Puri. Now, here great names like Adi Shankaracharya, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Ramanujacharya, Madhavacharya, and Vallabhacharya are associated. In the nearby place, from Puri just 38 kilometers, is Konark with its fabulously carved Sun Temple. It was also built in 13th century by Eastern Ganga dynasty. Most of it was largely destroyed and the remaining building had to be filled up with rocks. So let me show you here the sketch that I have shown. The tall shikhar is no more there. It is only the side building, the front, as we call it, the Sabha group. It is there. This has immense carving all around it. This was about to collapse because of weakness, and what the British did was, instead of carrying out a very tedious and probably dangerous renovation, they filled up the entire interior of this temple with rocks and sand. Those of you who have been there would know that the black door that you see, there are rocks, but you can't go in. There is no inside. So here you can see the wonderful carvings outside only. But Bhubaneswar is a place which is underestimated by India. Bhubaneswar, with its significant temples like Lingaraj, Brahmeshwar, Bhaskareshwar, is a wonderful place with so many architecture from medieval era in one place. The lower Bhaskareshwar temple that you see has an Ashoka pillar worshipped as a ling. They built this temple over Ashoka pillar, and Ashoka pillar is considered a ling in that temple. Nearby are also Buddhist and Jain caves, and also the famed Kalinga war site. So this is a place of great historic and archaeological importance. Out of these, two sites are World Heritage Sites. Bhakra Dam, Bhakra Nangal project. The Bhakra Nangal multipurpose dams were amongst the earliest river valley project undertaken by India after independence. It was called New Temple of Resurgent India by Jawaharlal Nehru. Bhakra Dam at 226 meters is one of the highest gravity dams in the world. It has created a 90-kilometer long reservoir. The twin dam projects, which is Bhakra Dam and Nangal Dam, they generate a whopping 1400 megawatts of electricity, and they irrigate, and this is worth hearing, they irrigate 40,000 square kilometers of fields. This is a milestone of Indian history, which every Indian should visit and admire. 13th is Meenakshi Sundareshwara Temple, which is a historic temple located in an ancient temple city of Madurai. It was built in 12th century by Pandya dynasty poet saint king Kulasekaran I. He built the main portions of the three-storied Gopuram as well as the central part of the goddess Meenakshi shrines, with other parts added for centuries after him. Goddess Meenakshi is depicted here as a consort of Shiva, and as a divine ruler. She reflects the matrilineal tradition of South India. The complex is spread over 14 acres, and it houses 14 Gopurams, the tallest being 170 feet, which is like 17-storied building. Various shrines and pillared mandapa are there, including on the left that you can see a 1,000-pillared hall. The Gopurams are covered with stucco images of chief Hindu deities, figures from Hindu mythology, saints, and scholars. The 4 tallest Gopurams themselves have more than 4,000 mythical stories depicted. 4,000 stories on this Gopuram. It is known as the Taj Mahal of South. It is grand in terms of its religious and historic significance, as well as its architecture. Dholavira. We come to Gujarat again. Dholavira in Kutch, Gujarat, is one of the 5 largest Harappan sites and the most prominent of Indus Valley civilization site in India. It was also the grandest city of its time. Can you imagine, in ancient world, you can almost call it near prehistoric. This was one of the grandest cities. The 120-acre quadrangular city is between two seasonal streams and was occupied from around 3500 BCE till about 1800 BCE. There are upper and lower towns. There is a citadel, which is a palace, and separate areas for officials to live, all surrounded by a fort all around. Its unique system of harvesting, conserving, and distributing water with 25 feet deep water reservoirs, public toilets, wells, and drainage system speaks of an advanced hydraulic engineering, which was the most sophisticated in entire world of its time. Now, from this area, seals have been found, Indus seals, but you probably know Indus seals generally have some Indus script. Now here script-less Indus seals were found, which are supposed to be the earliest Indus seals. The most significant find has been a 10-foot long signboard. You can see on the right upper picture. This signboard must have stood on a wooden plank and must have fallen down over the years. And that is why its letters, which are made up of, they're almost 5 feet tall, 15-inch tall and about 10 feet long, made up of gypsum stones. Now, the wonderful aspect of this signboard is that this inscription, mind you, is the longest Indus script ever found. Never 10 letters have been found at a time. Also, there are many black and red pottery, bronze and gold artifacts found from this site. So this again, you would agree, is a significant place. 15. Painted havelis of Shekhawati. About 100 kilometers from Jaipur, is an area named Shekhawati. This encompasses 3 districts of North Rajasthan. This being on a major trade route of caravans from India to West, the merchants in this area flourished and became super rich. You name a Rajasthani big industrialist like Birlas and the likes, and they all came from this area. To provide livelihood to poor artisans, this rich commissioned the artists to paint their own houses. Every super rich person wanted 5 buildings to be built: a haveli, a temple, a memorial chhatri, a well, and a caravanserai, like a dharamshala. And they wanted them painted by poor artisans. That culminated in painted havelis, and again, a mind-boggling number. At its peak, there were 2,500 painted havelis. Not all have survived. The colors used were mineral and vegetable pigments, red and white, lead, cinnabar, indigo, lapis lazuli, etc. And they were mixed with adhesive gum and then applied. The result one has to see to believe it. Hundreds of these havelis survive even today. 100 at least are in fairly good shape, and 20 of them, which usually the visitors visit, are the best of them. Thousands of foreigners flock this area every winter. Movies like PK, Bajrangi Bhaijaan, Peheli, and Jab We Met have been shot here. And one must plan a leisurely 2 to 3 days trip of this area. So these are the painted havelis of Shekhawati. Just wonderful. Most of them are abandoned. Some of them have been even taken over by the Chaukidars themselves because the owners don't visit them. And some of them are in disrepair, but still in most, the paintings are very well preserved. 16th, Ashok Shila Lake in Girnar, Gujarat. Ashok's rock edicts or Shila Lake belong to 250 BC. His Shila Lake, which were numerous, have been divided as major and minor. Minor are many. The major Shila Lakes are 14 Shila Lakes. One of them is this. And these 14 are spread over entire Indian subcontinent, right from Kandahar of Afghanistan to Bangladesh in the east. They happen to be the earliest organized writing of ancient India surviving today. I again would like to surprise you by this fact that what you are seeing in this picture, the Ashok Shila Lake, are the earliest writings surviving. In other words, nothing before it of significance has survived. In the script, yes, I mentioned the signboard of Dholavira, but nobody has deciphered it so far. And that is why the properly organized language, if you say, the earliest language is 250 BC only. Please remember, Vedic era was much before that. All the Vedas, even if they were written, have not survived. They were passed by oral only, by mouth. And that is why this is the early surviving script. This has a huge stone with carving in Brahmi script in Pali language. I'm sure you understand the difference between a script and a language. Pali language is a Sanskrit variant. This is in 20 lines mentioning resistance to greed, resistance to animal sacrifice. It moralizes the principle of purity of thought, secularism in thinking, kindness, and gratitude. The rock also has 150 BCE inscription by Western Kshatrapa and Gupta kings, which represents a turning point in the history of development of Sanskrit, and it is the first long inscription recorded entirely in standard Sanskrit. So this rock, which at one time it was lying exposed, recently a good building has been made over it, is again a very important site in India. 17. Ancient temple ruins of Kashmir. All of us who are hearing this talk have visited Kashmir, but few or almost none might have visited these great temple ruins of Kashmir. Martand Sun Temple in Anantnag, and from Martand, the name of the city they have now altered to Matan. So the city name is Matan, where Martand Sun Temple ruins are there. It dates back to 8th century CE. So do you realize 1200 years? So more than 1000-year-old are all really old. And this was commissioned by one of the greatest kings of India, about which most of us do not know. One of the greatest. And that was King Lalitaditya. He was also called Muktapida. Now, he had his empire from Afghanistan to West Bengal. Can you imagine a Kashmiri king whose empire stretched from Afghanistan to West Bengal? And this temple was destroyed by 18th century Sultan Sikandar Miri. Further, it was damaged by earthquakes. The campus has a colonnaded courtyard with its grand primary shrine in the center. You can see even now how big ruin exists, surrounded by 84 smaller shrines, and the wall carvings depict Vishnu, Ganga, Yamuna, besides the prime deity, who is Surya. Many movies, including Andhi and Haidar, have been shot here. Now, whenever we see these ruins, many a times, most of us would believe that what sort of people were there, cruel, conceited, and they destroyed everything. Now, if you see world history, this has happened all over the world, everywhere throughout history. So India cannot be an exception. If you see in Egypt, there were hundreds of graves full of treasures. So far, only 1 or 2 have been found. You can imagine how they must have been destroyed or looted. You go anywhere and major structures, you know, the gardens of Babylon, the statue of Hercules in Spain, all have been destroyed. So we should not see that angle. Instead, we should start seeing, oh, how grand a temple it must have been in its time. Great kings built it. And yes, it was destroyed, and we should see to it that this does not happen in future. So this is Martand Temple. But there are many other wonderful ruins in Kashmir. This is the second largest group of ruins, which is called Avanti Swami Temple. It is a temple of Shiva and Vishnu in Avantipur. This is fairly close to the Martand Temple. It was built in 9th century by an Utpala king, Avanti Varman, and its existing remains also are impressive. There are other temple ruins like Krimchi Temple, Narang Temple, Narasan Temple, etc. And some very important Buddhist site. I want to say a few words about Harwan. Harwan is right on top of Srinagar. You have seen the Mughal gardens. From between the Mughal gardens, a path goes to a small, very close, a few kilometers from there There is a small dhaba sort of village where you park, and then you climb for about 20 minutes and you reach this place. Harwan was a site where fourth Buddhist council was held. Again, probably none of us know what were Buddhist councils. These councils actually paved way and they figured out what will be the Buddhist religion and how it should spread. So you can imagine how important these councils were. And this fourth council was called by the great Kushan king, and that was held in this place. Not much is left, but you can imagine the aura this place must have, and it does have. There is another site at Ushkur, which is close to Baramulla. Some wonderful sculptures were found here in British era, and they took all of them. All of them now are in British museums in England. Very few ruins remain today. So these are ancient ruins in Kashmir. 18th, Khajuraho temples in Madhya Pradesh. Again, most of us know, few of us have visited. Built for a century between 950 to 1050 CE by Chandela dynasty, Khajuraho temples are most important specimens of medieval Indian art. Here, there is a large compound with numerous temples. Originally, there were 85 temples, out of which only 25 have survived. And there are three zones: Western zone, Eastern, and Southern. The Western zone is the main group of temples. The Eastern has mainly Jain temples, and Southern has only 2 temples. The Western group has the highest number and most attractive temples, which has the Kandaria temple. Kandaria temple alone has more than 650 erotic carvings of couples in amorous postures on the outside, and inside about 250 more. So you can imagine almost 900 sculptures of couples in one temple. There is a Lakshmana temple which also is replete with erotic art. Actually, eroticism is seen in only 10% of carvings in Khajuraho. There are also other themes, gods, goddesses, but somehow it has become popular just because of the erotic sculpture. These temples reveal the art, wealth, worship, and power of the rulers. There is also a sound and light show. There are 3 museums there, and there are 2 forts nearby, Ajaygarh and Kalinjar. We come close to now ending. The last but one is Shanti Niketan in West Bengal. Shanti Niketan in Birbhum is about 150 kilometers north of Kolkata, and it was not made by Rabindranath Tagore, but by his father, Maharshi Devendranath Tagore. In 1863, he took this 20 acre of land for a permanent lease at a yearly payment of 5 rupees. And later it was expanded and made famous by his son, Rabindranath Tagore, whose vision became what is now a university town with founding of Vishwa Bharati University, which in 1951 became a central university. Like we know, this is All India Institute of Medical Sciences, etc. They were central, so it's the same way. The ashram complex is the oldest area here, with Devendranath, which Devendranath built, and now it is a full-fledged town and known for its literary and artistic heritage. With the notable figures of this town still are Rabindranath Tagore and Nandlal Bose. Vishwa Bharati University serves as Shantiniketan's cultural center. Shantiniketan's aura of historic foundation, education, and art, and even the aesthetics of its campus and the buildings make it almost a place of pilgrimage. Sarnath, the 20th, a UNESCO World Heritage Site. In ancient time, here was a deer park in which Gautam Buddha first taught Dharma. So he first started preaching in this area, and where the Buddhist Sangha came into existence through the enlightenment of Kondana. Kondana was one of his 5 major disciples, and Kondana envisioned that Gautam Buddha's message must become a Sangha. So you can almost say that Buddhist religion started in this area. Now, this is even today, it is a deer park. The meaning of Sarnath is Lord of Deer. Sarnath reached its zenith under Guptas in 4th and 6th century. The Chinese traveler Yuan Sang, about whom most of us know, recorded 30 monasteries and 3,000 monks living here. In 1193, Qutbuddin Aibak, who was the first Delhi Sultan, he destroyed it. Now, the most important part of Sarnath is the lion capital, which is our national emblem. Surprisingly, lion capital was on the top of a 24-foot high Ashokan pillar. When Sarnath was destroyed, the pillar was broken and this lion capital fell to the ground. To our luck today, even though it fell 24 feet, it was intact. It got buried into sand and later the British excavated it. The left picture shows after excavation, it stands in its own place. Only a few pieces were broken. Some were reattached. Some small pieces are missing. But there was also a Dharma Chakra above it, as you can see in the sketch. That was totally broken. Only a few pieces survive, as I have shown, and they are in the museum. There are many stupas and also a holy tree grown from the original Bodhi tree in Sarnath. So, my friends, we conclude these 20 places of pilgrimage. I'm sure you would agree they are places of pilgrimage. These are the 20 places, and the arrows I'm showing are all UNESCO sites. I'll put it as a list to find out what is your score. So I'm going to leave this, and the arrows here are out of these 20, 13 are UNESCO World Heritage Sites. India has 40 UNESCO World Heritage Sites, out of which this list has 13. And the green arrows, they depict nominated sites, nominated for UNESCO. So I'll leave this for a minute so that you can find out how many have you individually seen. And now you put your score. 5 or less, 6 to 10, 11 to 15, 16 to 20. What is your score? You would know. I would say one should remain in the 11 to 15 group. Most of my friends have seen less than 7 or 8. One of my very good friend, Dr. Urman Dhruv, I was shocked and surprised, has seen 19 of them. But no other I have come across. We have seen 16. And that is why this is the list. Now, we usually travel for social and professional reasons, religious places, hill stations and resorts, popular attractions, and wildlife and trekking. To this, let us add these very important destinations which define India to our itinerary. And that is why, my friends, be a real Indian, travel India. Thank you very much. I'm Tejus.
Thank you, Doctor. That was amazing. I think now we should start a tour of visiting all of it together, get the whole group together. And those who want to see all these 20 places, we should head towards having a storytelling session at each of this, because the pieces of artifacts speak so much of all these monuments. So we really enjoyed this session, because now my travel destination and my bucket list has increased to these 20, and I've just seen a couple of them on this
And
list.
there will be 20 more coming. If I have an opportunity, I'll present the next 20 sometime.
Definitely, Doctor. And now for the questions.
Dr. Naik, thank you.
Anji Pankaj Bhai, thank you.
So I think Would there be any questions? Participants would like to ask?
Can a few of us mention your scores?
It's pathetic.
Yeah, mine is less than 5.
Less than 5.
My score is probably 3.
3. Your and my average, 2 brothers, will reach a good figure.
Yeah.
શૈલેષભાઈ, માધવ્યા સાહેબ.
હું લગભગ 14 જગ્યાએ ગયેલો છું.
સરસ સાહેબ, હાજી.
I have thoroughly enjoyed. એટલે તમે જે આજે 20 બતાડ્યા એમાંથી લગભગ 14 સાઇટ ઉપર હું ગયો છું. 14 કે 15.
આપણા ગ્રુપ ઉપર હું આ લિસ્ટ મૂકી દઈશ just for your reference.
હાજી.
આપણા ગ્રુપ ઉપર WhatsApp ગ્રુપ ઉપર હું આ 20 નું લિસ્ટ મૂકી દઈશ બધાના રેફરન્સ માટે.
ઓકે ઓકે. બહુ સરસ આનંદ આવ્યો. તમે 1 કલાકમાં આખી સમરી કહી દીધી જે કદાચ મેં આખી જિંદગી.
હા, એટલે બધા પર એટલે મારે ટ્રાવેલોગ કે ડિસ્ક્રિપ્શન જેવું નહોતું કરવું, ખાલી ઇન્ટ્રોડક્શન ઓફ એ મિનિટ ઓર મિનિટ એન્ડ હાફ જેવું જ મારે કરવું હતું.
ના, એટલે તમે બેસિક વસ્તુ કહી અને લોકોને એક્સાઇટ કર્યા કે ભાઈ હવે જઈને વિઝિટ કરો. Perhaps that was your intention.
યસ. અને આ તો પછી ડિટેલ્સ તો ગૂગલ પરથી ને ત્યાં તમે જાઓ એટલે મળી રહે. પણ આ જવા જેવી ઇમ્પોર્ટન્ટ જગ્યાઓ છે, ઓફ પેરામાઉન્ટ ઇમ્પોર્ટન્ટ. ઓલમોસ્ટ બધામાં આપ જુઓ સાહેબ કેટલી ઇમ્પોર્ટન્ટ, અને સમ ઓફ ધેમ તો મોન્યુમેન્ટલ ઇમ્પોર્ટન્સ એવી જગ્યા.
દરેકના જે પર્સનલ અનુભવ હોય ને, ધેટ ઇઝ મોર ઇમ્પોર્ટન્ટ. હવે ધોલાવીરા જેવી જગ્યા હું ગયો તો ત્યાંનો.
Just a request, Shailesh bhai, this
video
session is telecasted live all over India, so either Hindi or English.
Oh, okay.
Haji.
We visited Dholavira.
Ji.
And we were thrilled, of course. It was still not well maintained. And where we stayed, it was a school of the local place.
I know, sir. Even today, there is no good place to stay at this world-renowned site. World-renowned.
But I believe now Gujarat government has constructed at least a building.
Yeah, but there is hardly anything, no facilities, sir. Night stay is impossible.
That is possible. But when we were there, we wanted to talk on telephone if possible. And the person who was maintaining that place, he showed us a tree, top of a tree. He said, look, that is where my mobile is. You have to reach there to talk with people around.
Yes, true.
So it was really surprising. But we thoroughly enjoyed.
To see many of these places, you have to cross those hurdles, because most of the places do not have good guides. Some places do not even have good paths to go. But still, the importance of the place is not reduced by that.
Yeah, of course. We can imagine, and sometimes we have read things in advance.
Yes.
So that we can appreciate those things.
There is a wonderful fossil forest nearby, fossilized wood in a large number, just a kilometer from Dholavira.
Yeah, correct. Well, let the others now participate.
Yes, yes,
we
sir.
can do it.
I think people are all waiting for the next 20, Doctor.
Yeah, of course. It will come up. Yes. Yes. Okay, then. In the chat, many must have quoted their numbers. Poonam has 8. Dr. Deepak Joshi has 5. Ashujit Anand has 5. So at least let us all promise ourselves that we should cross 10 of these 20. At least 10.
Doctor, good evening.
Yes.
Mukesh Dave.
Hi, Dave. Yes. Your video would do good. Yes, tell me.
On 9th of this month itself, I was in Sarnath.
Yes, you told me. Wonderful. Yes.
And I have
Yes.
not gone through thoroughly on your entire speech, but that's why I'm not able to show my score. But
Yeah.
personally, I will send it to you
But
tomorrow.
did you see the lion capital, our emblem, national emblem in the museum?
Yeah, very much, very much. And they've made a
Yes.
replica
And
of
it is
that
very
also in
big.
the
You know,
park.
we might think it is a couple of feet. It is 7 feet tall.
Yeah. And same replica they've made new in the garden also near the Buddha temple.
Okay, nice.
I've taken the photograph there also, which I will be sharing with you whenever I meet you.
Yes, sure. Thank you.
Wonderful thing,
Wonderful.
wonderful thing, wonderful thing. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you, Mukesh. So, ma'am, you or Dhiren can put some comments, and then if you want to conclude.
So I think I'd like to share. I just gone to Varanasi recently,
Yes.
and most of the places that the heritage places and the ghats and the stories behind the temples, they've started now, instead of having a typical guides, they're getting historians and storytelling. Now I think that will be one area
Yes.
for lots of these kind of places where there's so much history. You know, every time we were talking, it's like we were jumping into some decades and years, how many years old, monuments. And India has
Yes.
got so many monuments. And like somebody said recently, what we require is some kind of infrastructure which would sort of increase our tourism in these areas. But storytelling as part of this monuments behind the history and how it got devastated, that would be really interesting. And how the whole
Yes.
edifice came in terms of putting it together, that will be
True.
really interesting. So, Doctor,
And
we look forward to
if
the
you
next
remember, the Sikh king, the great Sikh king, Raja Ranjit Singh, he had donated the golden top of Varanasi temple.
Right. Super.
Even though he was Sikh, to a Hindu Shivite temple, he gave the gold for that. And as you rightly said, you know, the simple guides often tell us so much of nonsense. One way is to read while we are there. You know, we have mobiles, so we can read. But another thing is experts should be found. I was talking about Egypt, and our good friend Dr. Dhruv told me that we go with an Egyptologist, not a guide. So there are Egyptologists, you know, historians or qualified Egyptologists who can be taken with you if you are visiting Egypt. So something like that, you know, it makes a lot of a difference.
Right. So, Dr. Dhiren, any further questions? Any?
No, like say, basically the question is like, what actually stimulated you to go for all these like 20 interesting places?
No, I haven't been. I have been to 16 of them. For me, also 4 are remaining. So it is not just that what I have visited, but we found out, as I said, 100 places we found out, and we sat down. See, you see, I'm never going to mention places like, say, Statue of Unity, for example. It is a newly made Chinese-made statue, recently made. So I won't consider it a heritage site or which shows India. But as you have seen, I've included Bhakra Dam and even Valley of Flowers and Kaziranga and the root bridges. So they show what real India is. So that is how I came to this list.
I think it's amazing.
Because
It's like almost.
I'm a student of history. That helps me in finding out so many historic stuff. So more than 50% of these were historic. And of course, that is also a heritage and the profile of India. Yes, ma'am.
So I was saying it's almost like so much of history going on, and so much of unity and diversity. The diversity of the kinds of monuments and the way the whole the history behind it. I think, Doctor, you said it all, and we really look forward to the next session.
Thank you very
that you
much.
will be
Thank you.
collating together. Next 20 that we'd love to see. I think more on our bucket list for all of us to see. And I think as Indians, I'm really proud that we have such amazing historical monuments for us to explore. Thank you so much, Doctor. It was an amazing evening this time for us to have a glimpse of India, the real India, as you put it together. Thank you so
Thank
much.
Yeah.
Thank
Thank
you. Good
you.
night.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.
Bye.
Namaste. Namaste. Bye-bye.
Good night, doctor.
Good night, doctor.